The Sola product from Akana Perforce makes it simple to expose mainframe DB2 stored procedures as fully governed and secured REST and SOAP APIs, and it now includes support for XML data types. So let's go ahead and create a new API in the customer's project. First, right-click on the customer's project and select Import Program. What you see here is a default panel for importing a COM area program, so I'm going to click on Other Import Types and select Stored Procedure. Here I can now search through the catalog of DB2 stored procedures based on the criteria you see here. Now the procedure I'm going after is called custsec2, and that's the one that includes an XML data type. So I'm going to go up here to specific name and just type in cust and click search. And here we see all the DB2 stored procedures from our catalog that begin with cust. And custsec2 is the one I want to target, so just select it here. This panel is showing us that the custsec2 stored procedure accepts one input parameter called customer ID. So I'm just going to go in and put some data in here and click register. And here I just need to add a little additional registration information, such as the API name. And I'm going to call this one Get Customer Securities. For a class name, I'm going to use customers. And finally, a description, and this is just free-form text. I'm just going to enter Get Customer Securities, and I'm going to click Execute. This panel shows a variety of information pertaining to the stored procedure we've selected. Information such as input and output parameters, as well as columns that are part of an open cursor. This is strictly informational, and if you're comfortable with what you see here, all you need to do is go down and click Finalize. And that's it. We now have a fully governed and secured API. Let's take a quick look at it. If you come over here and you expand on the customer's project, you'll see our new DB2 stored procedure, along with an icon that indicates that this is a DB2 stored procedure. And if we expand on the DB2 stored procedure, we're going to see our API that we just built, Get Customer Securities. As you can see, based on this icon, this is a SOAP-only API, and if all you need is SOAP, then you're finished. But I'm going to also want to access this as a REST API, so how do I do that? Very simple. Just right-click and bring up the REST API designer. Now over here we see our schema window, and there is our input customer ID. Over here are the resources, and there are no resources as of yet, so let's go ahead and create one. Just right-click on resources, and we're going to add a resource at version level 1. I'm going to call this resource Customers. Now as far as our input, customer ID, we can pass that up in a variety of ways. Query string, for instance. In this case, I want to put it right on my resource path, so how do I do that? I just need to put a little marker here. Like that. And since we're going after the customer securities, I want to enter securities here too, and that's my resource. Just click OK. And there you see our resource. And you can see there is a URI parameter called custID. The next thing to do is to just declare the HTTP method that I'm going to use to access this resource, and that's going to be a GET. All that's left is to take the customer ID from the schema window and drop it over here on this parameter. And that's it. Just click Finalize. And we're finished. And as you can see now, this icon has changed. And if we hover over it, you can see that this API is available as both a SOAP and a REST API. So let's go ahead and test it. Let's start with our SOAP API. Just right-click on the API and bring up the quick test harness. And here, let's enter customer ID 38 and click Test. And here are the results. The details on customer 38 have been provided as output parameters here. In addition, the stored procedure opened up a securities cursor, which we can see here. And each row of that cursor contains information on a security held by this customer. What's interesting to note here, as I mentioned earlier, is that we now include support for XML data types. And that's what we're seeing here. Security info and all of its details. This was derived from a single column of a DB2 table of XML data type. This is actually a complete XML document stored in DB2. So how is that going to work as a REST API? Let's take a look. So there is a wide variety of API testing tools out there. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to go ahead and use this one, which is Postman. So as you can see here, here is the resource that I just created. Also interesting to note is that this is using localhost. When I was doing the SOAP testing, those requests were being sent to a version of the Sola runtime that was running on the mainframe. Here what I'm doing is I'm sending this to a version of the Sola runtime that's actually just running on my local PC. So let's go ahead and test it. So once again, you can see the details for customer 38 are provided here as output parameters, and the securities are part of an open cursor here. And for the purposes of REST, what we've done with that XML document, as you can see, is we've converted that over to JSON. So what about when you're finished testing and you're ready to publish your API? All the necessary contracts have also been generated by Sola. Let's take a look at that. All we need to do, once again, right-click on the API, and we can either view the WSDL if we're going to publish this as a SOAP API, or ROML if we're going to publish it as a REST API. But in addition, we also support Swagger documents using OpenAPI version 3 and version 2. So we can take a look at the OpenAPI version 3. And here it is. Now, in addition to support for XML data types as part of a cursor, support for XML data types is also included both as input and output parameters for a DB2 store procedure. For more information on Sola as well as other products from Akana, please visit akana.com. Thank you for watching.